Since we're coming up on Mother's Day and Father's Day, I had it in my heart to just encourage those with wayward children or unsaved loved ones, which is all of us. And I never tire of the story of my husband, who was deeply involved in a lifestyle of drugs and alcohol and worse from there, and how his mom turned him over to God, and God met her. And obviously, here 40 years later, he still loves God with all of his heart. And many of you know Pastor Robert on our staff here, and how after high school he turned away from God and went his own way, but he had a praying family. And they also were involved in a small group who prayed consistently for him. And as you know, he's certainly walking with God today. And this past week, we prayed in our small group for one of the participants, godson. And he was away from God. He was involved in this very ungodly relationship. And we found out that the day after we prayed, he came home and he had broken off that relationship. I love that. And I love this verse, Isaiah 59:1. It says, "Listen, the Lord's arm is not too weak to save." And you might say, well, my child, my loved one, my friend is just too far gone. It just really seems hopeless. But may I encourage you and may I challenge you that it's not so much the situation or the circumstances that surround this person, because we serve a big God. And the thing that matters is that we have a promise. We have a promise from God, because it's the promise that gives us the confidence in our prayers. And I listen to this incredible promise that God gives us. It's from Jeremiah 31, verse 16 and 17. Jeremiah 31, verse 16 and 17. It says, "Thus says the Lord." I love that. It's God saying it. It's not, what are we saying about the situation? But this is what God says about the situation. "Thus says the Lord, refrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears. For your work shall be rewarded, says the Lord again. And they shall come back from the land of the enemy." They shall come back. Not maybe, they shall come back from the land of the enemy. There is hope in your future, says the Lord, that your children shall come back to their own border. I love that. Such a great promise, and there's so many other great promises as well. Jeremiah 24:7, Isaiah 49:25. Promises can break impossible situations because the power of God is within those promises. Several years ago, a man came to our office and he told Bayless this story. He said at one time he'd been in Pelican Bay, a super max security prison, and he would have horrible nightmares. They're evil and violent nightmares. But he had a praying mom, he said. And one night in his dreams, he saw this guy with a smiling face. The guy didn't say anything. He just smiled, and it gave him peace. And it happened a few times. And then he was transferred to a maximum security, less security prison, and there they had a rec room. And one day he's walking past that rec room, and the broadcast from Cottonwood is playing, and he sits down and he listens and he receives Jesus. And he's telling my husband this, and he says he's been serving God ever since. And he looked at him and he said, "Bayless, you were the man in my dreams." Isn't God so good? Dads, moms, grandmas, grandpas, family, friends, never underestimate the power of your prayers, especially when you have a promise. Oh, isn't God so good? Just have a great expectancy of what He wants to do as you continue to pray. God is in the business of turning things around. And I just want to say, moms, you are amazing. And our prayer is that this is your most special Mother's Day yet. And to all of you, we love you, and we will see you soon.